also about social media. Just to let everyone know, this is being recorded, but we're not showing your faces, okay? So if I look at my kids are 12 and 17 years old. When they wake up and they start communicating online with social media, they're not thinking, oh, I'm going onto the social media. And I'm almost 50 years old now. And a lot of people, when I speak to them at my age group, is they're saying, oh, we're going to go into social media. And so we need to stop thinking about social media as a term. It's a change in the way we communicate. So my kids just wake up and they communicate on Instagram or on Snapchat or on WhatsApp. And that's how we're all communicating now. So today in the talk that I'm giving you, I'm going to be talking about your personal brand or your reputation and a change in the way we communicate. So I'm going to show you how to build your personal brand so that when you Google your name, what comes up in the search engines? That's why I was asking who of you have actually Googled my name to see what comes up. Then I'm going to just quickly talk about how do you network and connect in the industry you want to work in. And so obviously today we're talking about sustainable tourism. And then I'm going to talk about being in a constant state of learning. So because the world's changing so much now, is how do we stay always up to date? Okay. Before we get started in your personal brand, post-COVID, there's going to be immense changes in the world. Okay. And I'm not just talking about education. For example, the way you guys are logging into this free webinar is you can see schools are changing the way they're communicating with their pupils. Universities are changing the way they speak to their students. Companies are now seeing that individuals can go on online courses and learn. So I think the changes post-COVID are going to, I mean, this was all around before COVID. What COVID has done is just forced everyone into it, including people working from home. And I think companies are going to see that they can employ people remotely, they can subcontract people remotely, they can do better skilled, and they don't have to have people coming and sitting on a desk and working 9 to 5 with them looking at them. Okay, so we're now able to coordinate work, how we get employed, how we operate in an online environment. So post-COVID, all of these changes are going to happen. And of course, climate change, the United Nations have just brought out their latest report. And this is, we need to change. Every facet of our lives need to change now towards climate change. So whether we're talking about sustainable tourism or your health or your wellness or your balance between work life and this, how you're using plastic, all of these things. Now, even before COVID, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, these were going to be big game changers that are out there. Okay, so change is coming. It's not to be scared of it, but it's to kind of embrace it and to be part of it and in a positive way. Okay, so I think in the future, we're no longer talking about the color of our skin or nationality or how much wealth you have or power or status. We're going to, I hope, move more in towards community, wellness, responsibility, contributing something bigger than ourselves and just profits. So I'm talking about companies and individuals. So I'm hoping most of you listening today are individuals looking to find work, but want to be part of a sustainable sector. Okay, and that's what we're talking about today. So this is not sustainable tourism or sustainability is not a fad. This is something that's here to stay. There's no finish line at the end of this. This is going to be something that we fight against for forever, trying to get zero emissions and be more sustainable, not producing plastic. Okay, so everything in humanity needs to head towards this change. I mean, often those people that know me know that I'm often talking about the house is on fire. We can't say someone's having a smoke in the corner. It's now on fire. We need to change. We need to have discussions like this here. Right, we're going to get started now. If any of you have any questions, because I'm sorry, I do speak fast, just put them in the, sorry, Jenny's telling me we just got people joining still. Jenny, I think we're going to get started because we don't have so much time. People will just have to catch up. And if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to put it here, and then Jenny will pick the best ones or the most common asked. And at the end, we'll have a little Q&A just to see. And at the end, my email address is john@canarygreen.org. If you want to connect with me or reach out to me after this, please feel free to email me. And we are recording it, so at some point we will publish this. So we can also send you a copy of that. Okay. Right, let's get started. Your personal brand. I hate the word personal brand. Let's talk about your reputation online. So when I search your name and I see what comes up in the search results, you need to be in charge of that. You can't just leave it to fate or what's going to happen. A lot of people I speak to, they're not using their own names on Instagram, for example. But if you're applying to me for a job and I get to see your Instagram account, it gives me an insight to who you are and what you are. And so there's two things I want to tell you today is take care about what you're publishing. Okay, we're not looking for selfies now with how many likes you can get. We want to be using social media to educate and to connect, not for likes and views on our photos. Okay. So every 7 years, they reckon that people are going to change their jobs. So if you're looking at your reputation, what I'm talking to you today about is prepare your profiles and your connections and what you publish on social media for your whole career. Okay, that's really important you understand this. I'm not talking about trying to find a job now and then saying, well, forget this social media thing because I've got my job. No, what we're talking about today is to build your reputation through your whole career, because you as a person aren't going to change. Your morals, who you are, is going to be for your whole life. So you want to keep this reputation, your connections. And it's not about LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, because platforms will come and go. But as you build across different platforms, your connections, your reputation, for the long term, that's how I think we should be thinking about all this. And the next thing I want to talk about is what you publish. Really try and become an authority or an interest if we're talking about sustainable tourism. But of course, what I'm talking about now applies to all industries. So it doesn't have to just be sustainable tourism. It can be anything. So what you publish, you've got to have an interest in it. Okay. I'm not going to tell you today what channels to choose. I probably would say if you're going to choose, start with LinkedIn. This is a business. It's like Facebook for business. And really fill in your profile as best you can. Make sure it's a proper image, a header image. I don't want to go through all that. Just Google how to get started on LinkedIn and you'll have 100 videos explaining it better than I could ever do. Okay, and same for Twitter. Twitter is great because it can be your voice. You can share content that interests you. It can be your real voice to get out there. Facebook and Instagram are a little bit more personal, but I would still play in all those channels. And when you search your name, it's coming up. I can see that you volunteered for beach cleanups in your local beach, that you're helping a charity, that you've done internships there. Okay, you need to publish all this stuff on your social media channels across the board. Okay, so when we Google your name, when I see what comes up, I see you're an authority, you're authentic, you're honest, you're trustworthy. If you're just sending your CV to companies in tourism, when they get your CV, there's only 3% of the CVs that are actually looked at by a person. So computers are now controlling all of this. So you have to stand out. And to do that, if someone's going to search your name, it needs to come through like that. I hope this makes sense to everyone because it's really important for everything else we're speaking about. Right, we're going to then talk about, so we're talking about your personal brand, your reputation, choosing channels, publishing the right content. The next step is equally important, is learning how to network and connect in the industry. So this is really important, is don't just sit back, is go and be proactive in reaching out. Let's say there's a certain hotel brand that you want to work with because they're really sustainable, or a flight company that's really sustainable in their changes that they're doing. Whatever it is, if you are wanting to work in that industry or that company, research everything about them, really dig deep into that company, into their products, into their partners, find out who the human resources team are, find out who they are individually, Google their names and see their Instagram accounts. So if you are in a Zoom call later on with them, you know a little bit that your daughter also does horse riding the same as their daughter, and it does connect you a little bit better. So I'm not saying stalk, but research these human resource people and the company and the history of the company. Okay, we're going to come through later, going through job interviews, but learning how to network and to connect in this industry. Okay, we're actually preparing now a list of people in sustainable tourism, and so reach out with me afterwards, and I will share this list. We don't have it finished yet, but I want to give you like a starter pack with people to connect with that are going to help you, educate you, and help connect you in sustainable tourism. Okay, so we'll speak about that later. Then I want to talk about being in a constant state of learning. And I keep saying the next point is important and the next point is important, but this point is really important. And when I was at school, I didn't have the internet. I had a picture of Mauritius on the wall, and I used to look at the picture of Mauritius, and I used to say, that's where I want to go and work and live. And I've now ended up in the Canary Islands, so it is similar to Mauritius. But my point is, I never had access to the internet or to content or information online. I had to go to the library and get a book on Mauritius, which was 10 years old. And that was my market research. So what we've got access to today is to be able to bounce off information, ask people, research people. You've got everything online at your fingertips now. So we have to stop thinking about education as you finish school, you get your school certificate, you get your degree from university, and then you say, I'm finished studying, I've got now I plug into the corporate ladder like this. That's finished, that's gone. The world is changing too much, too fast at the moment. You have to be in this constant state of learning, of feeding yourself information about changes that are happening. And when you open your mind to all of this, you can embrace it, not fear it, not fear the unknown, because I know we're all scared of change. The problem is change is coming. And so we have to learn how to adapt and how to embrace it and how to work with new rules. So working from home, working online, working with Zoom, all these kind of things are really important. I follow someone called Seth Godin. I don't know if some of you might know him. He's a marketer from the US. He's brought out a small course called an Alt MBA for marketing. And this is the change. He's got a 6-week high intense course for $3,000. And it's not a 3-year university degree that was, the degree was designed 10 years ago. This Alt MBA is here, live, now updated, real time. He doesn't even give you a degree, a certificate afterwards. But what he's saying he's giving you is an education. And I think that's what's been missing in all of this, is we have to have people that actually know what's going on. Okay. And it's the same as in the past, the whole education system is taught on, we teach you this content and then we test you if you can remember it. But because we have access to all of this information at our fingertips now, I think more what we should be focusing on is how do people access this information, make decisions on it, and move forward. And that's the world I think we're going into, is where you have to be in this constant state of learning, presenting yourself, and people knowing how to plug into information and change and evolve. Because this is really the time in history, in humanity, that we're going to change the most. There's a futurist called Leonard, and he speaks about humanity over this 20-year period now changing more than it has in the last 300 years. That's incredible. So we're talking about COVID, climate change happening now, augmented reality, all these things, all these changes that are happening right now are going to just really make change, compound the change. It's going to be like a snowball going down the hill. It's going to get bigger and faster. Okay. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to say there's lots of opportunities now coming for people that embrace this new technique of standing out. Because when you send the CV, I remember when I was trying to recruit as an assistant for my marketing, as marketing manager of a hotel, I got so many CVs every single day. It was impossible to look at all of them and see who the person was. And then somebody popped her head in the door and said, did you see Maria's CV? And I said, which one is Maria? Oh, Maria's the lawyer. No, she's got no place in my team. And she goes, no, but have a look at her YouTube account. I looked at her YouTube account and she made these amazing videos, sports videos actually. And we had a sports department. She took photographs. She had 5,000 tweets on her Twitter account. She did. And I phoned her up there and then, and I said, where are you? I'm coming to you. You've got the job. And it was literally like that because she stood out. And when she sent me the email with her CV, she never told me, look at my social media or check me out like this. And so I think if you're volunteering this information when you're applying for these jobs, especially when you've got sustainable initiatives inside there, tourism, those kind of things in your platforms, you stand out from the other people that are just sending their CV in. Okay. So just coming back to constant state of learning, there's a lot of companies now that like LinkedIn and Google, and a lot of the universities are offering free courses. This is a free webinar. There's podcasts. Podcasts are trending a lot at the moment. There's Google search. There's Google alerts. So you can go and put in sustainable tourism on Google. So it's google.com/alerts. Put in sustainable tourism, and then you can get notifications from Google when anything's published about sustainable tourism. You can even set that email into a folder and then just go through it all like that. There's Twitter lists. So you can find, which I'm going to help you with. I'm going to build a list of 100 people in sustainable tourism that you should follow. And when they are publishing changes and trends that are happening, you can stay on top of it. So if you're having discussion with a new job or a job interview, you will be armed with this latest information, and it can come through from Twitter lists. Okay. There's YouTube, where if you see good videos, add it to a watch list and build that library of content that you can have regarding sustainable tourism. I also want to tell you about an app called Feedly. Feedly is an app that it's a Google, it's a newsreader, not a Google, it's a newsreader that you take the RSS feed from websites and from blogs, and you put it into Feedly, and it pulls all this information from the different websites as it's published into your feeder. So you open the app, and straight away you can see what the top websites and individuals are publishing in one morning, and you can go through all the articles. You don't have to physically go to each website. Okay, so I use that a lot, Feedly. Okay, have a look at it. There's also newsletters out there. So I think it's just opening your mind. Like sometimes I speak to people and they feel a bit defeated. They don't know how to get involved in this. So you want to be thinking about reinventing yourself, presenting yourself online, learning, connecting, and being able to stand out and be different. Now there's, once you've done all of this, and let's say you get the chance to have an interview, what's happening at the moment and the trend that's happening at the moment is a lot of the interviews are being done via Zoom calls or online conference calls. And it could be with one person or with multiple people. And so it's really important. I think, sorry, I've just got a question. Is it more difficult to find a job because of the pandemic? Okay, I'll answer that now in this question. So when you come into a Zoom call, make sure your camera's head height, make sure you've got good lighting, make sure you've got good audio and sound that you can listen. You're not going like this. You've got good internet connection. If you don't have good internet connection, go and find somewhere that does. Make sure your hair's done, your clothes are ironed. You've told the people that live with you to please be quiet and not disturb you during this interview process. Make notes, have questions prepared before. Really Google the company and research the company and the human resources people, if you can find out who they are. Research them before. So you're really armed to give yourself that one opportunity, because normally when you walk into an interview, people can look at your body language. They can look at a whole lot of factors around you. And Zoom, you kind of get that headshot, which is more difficult. And also people can do more interviews, so the interviewer is more tired. So you don't want them to see things that stand out that, oh, that's irritating because your camera is moving all the time. So have the camera fixed, have the lighting good, have all your clothes, all of that stuff, make notes, send a follow-up email afterwards saying further to the call, this, and here are, if they ask for anything extra, it really shows that you're taking note, that you're listening afterwards, that you are motivated, that you are attentive and switched on. Okay, there's too many, I mean, I work now with Canary Green, and there's too many times I'm speaking to people where they say, we'll call you tomorrow morning. I don't hear from them for a week later, and they're saying, are you free now? And I'm like, no. So people's patience level are really tight now. So be on time, be switched on. And I think the question that's come in talking about the pandemic, this is what I'm talking about. Everything I'm talking about now is post-pandemic, is people will now start recruiting more. It'll be easier for people to find jobs post-pandemic, because now you can apply. If you use this technique I'm speaking about today, you can apply for more jobs. You can, it's not just sending your CV and going to people. You can now do this more. So you could have 2 or 3 job interviews if you do this technique properly every day when you're working like this. Okay, so you have to present yourself out there. You have to volunteer your social media sites out there. Now, I know a lot of you are talking about your privacy and this is not for me, and this is not for everyone. I've got good friends where I even say to them, this is not for everyone. I just think that we're coming into a world that is digitally connected, and it's so hard to trust people and to know what's their history, what's their background. Is it? So go out there and really embrace and be open and be honest about who you are and what you are. Okay, that's really what I'm talking about today. And it's I mean, I love that Instagram are now offering that you can hide the likes on your photos, because it's such a silly metric to be looking at and evaluating different things. Okay. Are there any other questions coming in? I know, Jenny, we were talking about please, if you've got any questions, fire them in there. So what's the most important thing about a CV? Okay. I'm sorry, I just created my CV for the first time, and it wasn't even for a job interview. It was for something else. It was to raise money for my nonprofit. But I think the days of the CV are going out the window. Okay, it's all actually managed by computers now. So I'm not the best person to advise you on a CV. Google the best way for a CV. I think it's on one page. It's having a good photo that shows your face, and it's having where you've studied, what you've worked, some references. Try and keep it very concise, down to the point. Don't forget, a lot of computers are looking at your CV now. So make sure you're putting the keywords on your CV, because that's what's filtering you to go through to the next level for someone physically to look at your CV. So I would say make sure you're including all the keywords of the job you're applying for. Okay, so not just your standard CV. Update your CV for each application you're doing. Okay, but when you're updating yours, right in the beginning, I spoke to you about creating social media profiles in your name and with your photo, not a sunset photo. That almost becomes like your CV. So when people are Googling your name and it's coming up like that, you can see who the person is, you trust them, you want to give them a job, you want to support their business, whatever it is, it adds value to who you are. Okay. So I think CVs are on the way out. Something like LinkedIn and having endorsements, having recommendations from LinkedIn, and all of these channels. If you go to all your social media channels and Google how best to use Twitter, they can really, I mean, I can do it, but we don't have time for that today. And also the people out there that really specialize in everything to do with Twitter. And the point that I'm making is that all of this is changing so fast. So you can't buy a book on how to market on Twitter, because that book in 6 months is out of date. So all of this concept of doing a course, it has to be in this constant state of learning, because everything is changing so much. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. Sorry, this was fast and furious. I would like it to be a bit longer. I've tried to cram everything in. I've just got a notice saying our time is almost up. Okay, so thanks to everyone. Thanks, Jenny, for helping on the sidelines. And email John at Canary Green. Jenny, if you could just put that in the comments. You can email me afterwards if you want to know. I can help you personally if you want with all of this. We're setting up a course, so if you're interested in doing a course with us, I can do that. And if you've got any questions about some of the software that I've mentioned, I'll also put that on. Okay, thanks everyone for joining in. And yeah, please follow canarygreen.org. That's the latest project that I'm working on in the Canary Islands, Spain. Thanks. Cheers, everyone.